everybody. I'm Melissa Banczak, and welcome to episode 83 of Books Cubed, the show where I chat with authors you should be reading. It is Thursday, December 17th, 2020, and I'm happy to be joined today by Terri, Collica, my sometimes co-host, and we're chatting with Buckman about his book, The Trailer Park Piano. It's a really sweet hunting story about an old man hoping to leave something of value to a special young girl who has nothing. And I'm really happy to be back after 6 long weeks without the internet. I moved, and it's a long, tragic story, but I finally have the internet again. And I'm really happy to be bringing you this show. I can speak that we recorded, I think, at the end of October or one of the first few days of November. So let's get right to it, and I will see you after. I want to welcome everybody today, and I have got my sometimes co-host Terri Collica with me, and we are both chatting with Marcus von Buckman, who has written a really good book called The Trailer Park Piano, and I want to welcome you today.
Thank you.
It's nice to talk to you. And your book, can you tell people a little bit about what it is?
Well, it was kind of my freshman effort. So I had written two novels previously, but I didn't bring them to fruition, So, but this one I was bound and determined. It's a coming of age story, and it's about this gal. I think savant is kind of a strong word, but she's extremely talented, just at the piano. And it's about poor white people in a trailer park, and she lives with her family. They're good Catholics, so there's about 12 of them, and they just happen to live right across the street from a retired Army officer who had been in Korea and Vietnam, and he's cantankerous curmudgeon. And but it's a story about how they become friends, this young girl, and as she becomes a teenager, and this old man who has nothing but money, really.
So how did this come about?
I think it's like it has to be the same with most anyone that writes it. You have a story that you want to tell, and it just burning, and so if you do that, if you tell the story and you do it well, as well as you can, certainly, then that's all you can really ask of yourself. I can't speak to commercial success because it would reverberate back at me like an echo chamber, having not had any. But I think if you tell your story and you do it well and people like it and people can escape, then, I think you probably did pretty good.
Yeah, and characters that people see as real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Identifiable.
And anything autobiographical, I can speak. Anything in there?
Painfully. Yeah. I read this thing that said that 95% of someone's first novel is semi-autobiographical. So, yeah, it was a trailer park. The setting was where I grew up. A trailer park down, maybe a couple miles down the road, and these people were just poor. We were kind of like lower middle income, and so I mean, we were rich compared to these people, They just lived day by day, and they did it well. They were happy.
Now, for me, when I write male characters, I spend a lot of time running to my husband and saying, if I said this to you, what would you say in return? Did you find yourself having any issues or stopping and pausing as you were writing this girl?
There's actually quite a few female characters in there, and yes, of course. Um, I get a lot of help from my friends, so I kind of lend it out to them. Some of them are better at it than others at getting back to me. But so I go to the female. I say, does this sound like a female? I mean, is this something that a woman would think about, or a young girl? And I usually get hacked pretty hard, but I find some kind of middle road that I could put in there, and it was more comfortable than I thought it was going to be. Yeah, and I had to do that. There was a most of the stories set with her, this main character, as a teenager, 16, 17, 18. But there were times in the book where it kind of, backstory and then kind of front story. Excuse me. And so I had to do it not only from the female's point of view, but I had to do it, as she, grew up, and
Teenagers.
I found I did a lot of the retrospect happens in editing when you're going back, and you're like, wow, that sounds like a dude talking, I need to get off that.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Terry.
Oh, when I was reading the story, and I really was relating a lot to the old vet. I mean, I think he saved the day, and so you know, I think that was. I should let people know. Marcus is my cousin, so um, as far as your background, um, you were in the service and everything, and I thought you really brought that into the story, and it seemed like it was definitely her story, but I think it was your story too, and I really related to that relationship between the two of them. I think they sort of saved each other. What do you think?
Yeah. If I were to say that that character was based on one particular individual, I would probably be stretching that. It was probably like an amalgamation of like me, my father, and this one gentleman that I knew who was of my father's generation. He was hard to please, and these. I felt like she gave him a heart and he gave her a reason,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah,
and
which
where
makes it a really sweet story.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he was dying, he was on his way out, and she was on her way up.
I know you and I had talked once about the ending of the story, and
Yeah,
without really giving that away, I saw it one way, and you can't always get any the real truth out of him, Mel, but he would not tell me if that was how he meant it. And I don't think that I think I took it one way, and so I think the ending really can be taken several ways.
it goes back to one of Mel's earlier questions that was kind of interesting. Is you can't please everybody because I had numerous people that read it come back to me and say, "Whoa, I was waiting for the slaughterhouse at the end, and uh, if I had it, we all have that. If I had it to do over, I might have done it differently. Maybe if I do a rewrite." I was thinking about that the other day. I was wondering if I rewrite, if I could actually change things. I guess it's mine. I can do whatever I want to do.
I don't know,
No,
maybe
no.
you do a second book, huh? Go on from her.
Yeah, are you looking? Is this something that you could do a sequel to?
I think I've done all I want to do with those characters. Uh, I kind of laid it out there that she was so melancholy that she was, semi-suicidal at times. You know what I mean? So I kind of left it to the reader to decide where that went at the end. And she was happy, but her definition of happy would be, different from most people, I guess. Uh, I like that character. It's really interesting because when you're writing a book, you fall in love with these characters, and they exist only within the binders, and sooner or later you're done and you put it away, and that's where they live, and you miss them, At least I do. And I
So
have to
what?
say, I absolutely love your hair. Is that,
Oh,
is
thank you.
that a beautiful shade of purple?
Yeah, yeah. It kind of blends in with my. If you're watching on video, it
Yeah.
almost well, it's not quite the same color as the character. There's a cartoon that was drawn of me. Looks nothing. Well, it sort of looks like me. Um,
Yeah, there's a cartoon behind your right shoulder that, yeah, it's fitting. I like it.
yeah, yeah. And the photo that she did it from, my hair actually looked like that. It had not gray, but it had stripes of like blonde, which did look kind of gray in the light. And that was my favorite time that it was colored, and I could never get it done again. And I keep showing hairstylists, okay, this is the photo. This was my favorite one, and nobody can get it quite that same
Yeah,
look again.
it would seem you live in the land of beauticians. You'd think there would be somebody.
Yeah, yeah. So I usually,
You got the perfect runner's haircut though, because you can just go out there and do it. You don't have to tie it back or whatever. So
yeah, yeah,
marathon.
yeah, which is nice, which is nice. So you've got this book. I'm not going to say, well, I'm say intense scenes throughout the book. So was there anything that was just a little too tense without giving too much of the story away, where you had to stop writing or move away from it?
Her depression kind of got to me a little bit. I'm not as depressive as she is, but sometimes I can get quiet and not talk to people for a couple of days. And I'm not seeking sympathy or empathy, but it was prophetic, in the way that he ended, that the older man ended, because I had something similar happen to me, someone close, some 2 or 3 years later. So I got to wear that. I didn't get to profess it at front, but I get to wear it now.
One of the things that I found, just in listening, to how you talk, um, Marcus's writing is can be really poetic sometimes. You know, I get to wear it. I mean, symbolic. Yeah, and I don't know. That's one of the things that I really like about your writing. You
Yeah,
know,
Yeah.
isn't it strange though? Isn't it strange because no matter what we do, we have our critics. And somebody called it sing song. That I spent some time in the Philippines, and that's what they call that, Yala, the local native language, because it just sounds, when they talk, it just sounds like they're singing a song. And he had been in the military and he knew me, so that was a dig. That wasn't a compliment, or whatever. So, but I also had someone who said that uh, that they liked the fluidity, and the passive voice is so important, and you really have to be careful as to, you want the characters to tell the story, obviously, but your passive voice better be there too, or you can forget it, because people get bored and set it down and watch Oprah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it wasn't overly flowery either. Um, paints a nice picture, but it
Yeah, I'm not a
doesn't.
big yeah, I'm not a big fan of the florid prose. I don't care about the ivy growing through the cyclone fence, and how it, scintillating in the summer sun or whatever. But yeah, I think you got to give the reader just enough so that their mind can fill the room. Here's the room. There's a big desk. Big windows, which is kind of reflecting this person's ego. And then beyond that, they can start looking at the curtains and their crimson red or whatever. And I think if you put too much in there, man, and I have been digged by, on that particular book, there was this gal named Susie Haverstick that I went to high school with. She's a very smart gal, and she read it, and she was brutal, man. I mean, she hacked me at every opportunity, which is good. You don't want to give it to your favorite cousin and have her tell you it was absolutely wonderful. You better put it out to somebody who's going to put a little pain on you.
Oh
And
yeah, most definitely. There's the rule really that you don't share your writing with family and friends because they're not going to tell you the truth.
yeah, and you
Yeah.
get too close to it. You spend so much time. You spend so much time with the book, and you start wondering, God. I mean, especially if you're doing it day after day, and you don't give yourself a break, and you read it, and you go, man, this sounds terrible. So you step away, come back to it, read it again. If it still sounds terrible, you better get a second opinion. The chapters are really short, which I like to do because I think people don't have a lot of time these days, so they like to do, 7, 10 pages, boom, that's the night they go to bed, whatever, unless they can't put it down, which that's a compliment. But the first 3 or 4 chapters on that book, I felt like I like the word smithing. and I felt like that I was a little cute by half, and that was confirmed when my cousin Miss Terri told me that if it hadn't been me, she might have not have gotten to the fifth chapter where it really starts. So she persevered, and I appreciated that.
Yeah, that's yeah, she's good about that because I've sent her stuff and she's good about saying, "This sucks. What are you
Oh
doing? Why are
yeah,
you thinking this? Stop it."
yeah. She'll
Good.
bust your
And
chops for
that's exactly
sure.
what you want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, writing can't be for the faint of heart.
Although she's not always right, she can't always be right.
I no, not at all.
Now, I've been after her to work on her cozy series for Clancy because what I've read so far was really good. So hopefully she can find some time and get that finished. So do you have any ideas, Marcus, for the next book that you're going to be doing, or have you started one yet?
Actually, a couple chapters from being done, and I'm really excited about it. It's a big departure from the genre that I've previously written. And it's it's an argument between Miss Terry and I as to what genre it is. I'm saying I love my characters. It's a literary horror thriller, and she's smacking me down, telling me I need to get rid of the horror, and if I did that, there'd be so many people that would just absolutely crucify me. So
No, I'm
good heavens!
not.
Oh, you say you're not now?
No, no, I think it's amazing. No, we talked about that. I think I'm not a thriller mystery reader. I'm more of a cozy mystery reader and writer. And so the thriller genre, which I also think you would have to put it in a thriller horror genre, um, you know, that throws me a little bit. But the horror, I think it definitely, yeah.
Yeah, since our conversation, I've tried to think about how that book would go without the ghost and without the supernatural, and I think that they bring too much of the information in it, and the main character, who's a priest, Father Schaefer, if he didn't have these ghosts, I don't know how I would be. That's how he gets a lot of his information. That's how he lives, vicariously through these um, apparitions that he walks. He sees them all day long,
Ooh,
the
nice.
proverbial. And I'm not going to say it about seeing the dead people, but I like to think I got my twist on that. So,
Nice.
but I'm excited about this one. That the Trailer Park Piano I finished in 2011. It was published in December of 2011, and it's almost like I'm so far removed from that it's like somebody else wrote it or something. But you know, I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna have to sit down and reread. I probably read that thing a million times. I can tell you what happened on every page at one time. I'm sure you guys can relate to that. Now I can't even hardly. I can't remember what happened.
Well,
The
it's been
video.
long enough too that you've changed enough. I mean, we all change as people, and it makes sense that we would change as writers and want to write something different. And maybe we've discovered something different that we like to read, and now we want to write in that genre.
Mhm.
How do you think that is? How do you think that's taken by your readers who read a coming of age story, and then all of a sudden your next book they buy it and they crack it open and it's something brutal happening?
Yeah, yeah, you got to be careful if you write in series. Uh, your readers come to expect a certain thing from you. So what most writers do is if they depart very they make a hard turn from what they were writing, they will use a pen name so that people don't. But people that write standalone books, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how that's going to be affected. Uh, it's almost like starting from scratch every time you have a new book out. You got to find that audience for it. So and
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't.
I don't think that and it was one book you said in 2011. So I don't think that anybody that read that one is going to be you know, searching for the newest book that you've got since it was so many years ago. It's going to be like starting from scratch. So people will read the horror book and go, "Oh, he wrote something else. Oh, it's totally different."
I was thinking about putting a warning, kind of like on the jacket or something, but you might be right. It might be, the time, so much time has passed that it might not be worthy of that effort.
Yeah, I think, the warning might get people excited about buying it.
Yeah,
You think about
that's
all
a
the kids
pain.
that, yeah, they want to buy the albums that say profanity, parents only, and they're like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yes, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, I remember my dad. Whenever there'd be a warning when a movie was going to start, it would say, warning, and my dad would say, it's just not worth it unless there's plenty of words saying after following that warning. He's not going to bother watching it.
I found that one of the most difficult things to do was to write to try and write a hook on the back cover. I don't know about you guys, but
Oh, I think that's, yeah, don't you, Mel? I mean,
Yeah,
really, that's the hardest
yeah.
thing.
It is hard. You have to hook them with that first opening sentence. You think about the guy, in a world filled with, that trailer guy, that voice, Don, whatever his
Yeah.
name was. You need something like that. And the thing you can do too is find books that are similar and then go and read what they've got for their descriptions and how they handled it. And you got to have that first opening line um, that throws out the possible problem, and then a few lines about what could happen as they try to solve that problem. And then, of course, you don't give the ending away or anything, but you leave that open ended. But yeah, that going and looking at what covers. Um, I don't know if thriller horror is a genre, but you probably, if you Google top 100 thriller books or top 100 horror, or you could try thriller horror and then go and then follow that Google link. It'll take you to Amazon, and then you'll look at the top 20 books and look at their covers and then look at their descriptions. And that's what you'll want to emulate. You want to look exactly like that. And you got to be careful you don't fall into the trap that I want my book to look different because I want it to stand out. People will look over it and go, nope, it doesn't have the silhouette of the character walking toward a city, so it's not going to be a thriller. That
yeah.
kind of thing. So you got to, if you write a thriller, it's got to be the silhouette of a person walking toward the city. If you write a cozy, it's got to be a character, a woman standing alone, with a dog or a pie or something like that. And then people are going to know exactly what it's about, and that's what they go toward, and they'll go, oh yeah, I got to have this book because of the cover. And a lot of readers say they buy based on covers alone.
Yeah, and you're competing with so many books. Your cover's imperative.
Yeah.
I've actually done both of my covers. I thought that cover for the Trailer Park Piano was beautiful, and I credit my wife; she was very good.
It's a nice
Um,
cover. It's a nice
it would
cover.
have it would have been nice on an end cap, if my publisher would have gotten off their rear and done that. I think
Yeah.
they left it to me.
You have the rights back to your book now?
Interesting question. Um, I was supposed to get them right back in 7 years, and it's been 7 years, but they went out of business. It was a weak publisher, but that's it better published than not. That's my opinion. No matter what, if it comes to whether you're not going to be published, then get published.
Yeah.
So uh, I don't know. I haven't been getting any royalties or anything like that, and I know the books. They had priced it prohibitively. I mean, people aren't going to pay $28 for a paperback. They're going to pay 10 or 15, and so I think that was part of a lack of commercial interest, and that was their fault.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the discussions, Mel, that Marcus and I keep having, whether it's better to, self-publish versus traditionally publish. And I know it's always an interesting question. Um, I think you have to take into consideration, if you're going to be able to get an agent, and I know that you're working on that, Marcus, and the time that would be spent then to get them to find a publishing company. I mean, Mel, you know more about this, but there aren't that many publishing companies now.
Yeah. Penguin Random is looking at buying Simon and Schuster, last I heard.
Hmm.
So if they are able to, if they, I don't know, I haven't checked the news really lately.
Is
I
that
try
good
to
or
avoid
bad?
it right now, but if they are able to, then that leaves what, maybe two publishing houses, and that's
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I don't know, Marcus. I guess it depends how you look upon it, but it's like everything else. You know, the big companies are sweeping in and getting buying the other companies, and then you get down to you got three main, companies,
Yeah.
and
Well, you know
yeah,
what you could do too is everything is separate. I used to be a literary agent, and you have your paperback is separate, your hardcover is separate, your ebook is separate, your foreign rights are all separate, your movie rights are separate, your TV rights are separate. So you don't sign it. I've known people that have signed a blanket contract for everything and been stuck for years with a company that won't do audiobooks or won't check about selling TV rights. You don't want to get stuck with that kind of thing. And the indie world, a lot of people now are keeping their ebook rights, but selling the paperback and the hardback rights, and then making money and selling foreign print rights. So you can make a lot of money with ebooks if you understand how to market. And now, as a writer nowadays, we have to know. And even back, when I was an agent in the '90s, you still had to do your own marketing back then. They didn't do it for
Really?
you unless you were Stephen King. They've never done marketing for just the average writer, ever.
Yeah.
So you
That's a
know
hard
it's
road to hoe when you got 40 hours somewhere else that you got to do to pay the bills and
yeah,
baby needs shoes,
yeah. Sometimes you get lucky, and the spouse can do all of your marketing for you while you are doing the writing, and then a lot of people are turning to PAs, personal assistants, virtual assistants. I'm sorry, VAs, and getting them to do your social media and things like that. Excuse me. Um,
Wow, do you know any good ones? You know any good virtual assistants, or how would you even start?
Oh, I don't know. I know people that I'm co-writing a series with a friend, and we've got somebody in mind that we're going to look to for our virtual assistant when the time comes. But and it's somebody that he knows. But I think that that there's money to be had if you are organized and you like paperwork, you like you're on top of things. There's money to be had being a virtual assistant. If I wasn't a writer, I think that's what I'd be really looking into, would be virtual assistancing. Uh, it's because I did a lot of that stuff already. Um,
You're
but
co-writing with someone? That sounds like a task. There could
I
be
absolutely love
artistic
it.
arguments.
We used to be screenwriters, and we wrote together really well. And now we're working on a horror series that will be starting in December, I think. And then I co-author a nonfiction series also, with a friend, with a different friend, and that's just been fantastic because when I went to her with the idea, uh, it's for if you listen to the show, people listening regularly, you catch our writing prompt episodes. We do them about once a month. And my co-author Lisa Mahoney, I came to her after spending all day at a coffee shop, trying to come up with an idea of something that would be, nonfiction and it'd be fun, and we like to do writing prompts anyway. And we you roll dice for our writing prompts that we're doing, and we were doing them anyway just to kind of get ourselves out of our funk that we were in. And went to her with that idea, and she made some changes to my idea, and they worked great. So I think when you're writing with someone, you have to start from the beginning. You have to really set up the ground rules of how it's going to work, who's going to do what. um, uh, you do that in the beginning, and when you're before you're arguing over points, how many times will you argue over something, and how will it be resolved, those kind of things.
I'm
Because
not
I
quite
can
sure I'd be able
imagine.
to. I'm not quite sure I'd be able to lend the outcome of something I had written to someone else. You know what I mean? That would be a difficult task.
Yeah, yeah, I think if someone came in and if someone tried to join me in the series I'm already writing, I wouldn't, you know, uh, yeah, because those characters are mine. They've lived in my head for years before I started writing them down.
Yeah, I don't know if I could do more than one at a time. My hat's off to those of you that can. That's got to be a undertaking.
Well, if you get well, like writer's block. A lot of people talk about writer's block. I personally don't really think it is a thing, um, because you can move on to
Never
something
had
different.
it.
I'm sorry.
Never had it.
Yeah, yeah. And it's if you are having problems, it's because you don't know your story. So you have to start thinking about your story. And how do you handle? Do you have points? Do you outline before you sit down?
The only thing that I do before I start is I put a skeleton together of the chapters, and those can move around. I can do whatever I want with them, but I try to get 20, 25 chapters, and at least that launches the story. And you can you can backfill, backstory, or whatever from there. But I don't know how people would do it without. Maybe you just start writing without some direction.
I don't understand. I don't
Better than
understand
me.
that either. Because
No,
I
I
do the same thing. I sit down. I have 26 chapters. I put 3 lines for each chapter of what it's going to be about, and then I can start writing. And then, you probably have the same thing where all of a sudden you come up with something new, and you have to sit down and you adjust your outline, and the story has changed.
Oh, most definitely. And I was talking to Miss Terri. I don't know. I guess it was last week, and she said that some people can sit down and write, and they just vomit this, in chapter, 20-page chapter, and that's what I tend to do actually when I sit down. Is it just I can be fairly prolific. My problem is that life gets in the way, and then I might get a good chapter in, and then it's 2 weeks before I can sit down and do it again, or look at it, to see what it is that I thought was so cool at the time.
Yeah, yeah. I listen to people who talk about. I try to write every day at the same time. It's been crazy because we're moving. So it's been the last month has just been discombobulated, and it will continue to be through most of November, which happens every year. November gets screwy for me. But these people that have, 20 children and 3 jobs, and they write 5 or 6 books a year because they get up at 4 in the morning. I just can't do that.
Uh, it's
yeah.
got to be easier with your. It's got to be easier with grown children, though. I mean, with young children, I can't imagine how anybody does. They'd have to do it after they went to bed or before they got up.
Oh yeah, that's just crazy. But yeah, I think that, sitting down. Do you write it at the same time? You don't write at the same time every day. You said you just write when you can.
No, it's usually in the evening, and I live by myself, so it's a lot easy. But once the day's done, and like right now, I mean, where I live in the Northwoods, up near Canada, and it gets dark about 4:30, so 4 o'clock. So that lends for a long evening if that's what you want to do.
Nothing else to do. Yeah.
Get a fire going, and I used to be into the TV head, and ever since I moved up here, there's just too much to do. There's too much life, and which I like.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't. I mean, I have a DVR, so if there's something that I want to watch, I DVR it, and then every couple months we go through the DVR and delete everything that we didn't watch because
Yeah,
it's like
which,
tons of stuff. But
yeah.
yeah, I don't remember the last time we sat down to watch TV in the evening when something was live, or the first time it was being shown.
Well, I think part of the problem with that is that if you do, I don't know when the last time you sat down to watch something, but some of these doggone shows that they have are just the stupidest thing you could ever imagine. They have to be starving for a good story, which makes me wonder why they just haven't, why they haven't found mine.
Well, yeah.
So if people want to find your book at the Trailer Park Piano, and make sure I say it right, how can they find it?
Last time I was on Amazon, it was on there, but it's priced still by that publisher. So
Well, the ebook is $1.99 at the moment.
yeah,
So,
there is the Kindle. Yeah, the Kindle thing, which is what I would suggest. I mean, it's an easy read.
mhm.
I think it was 248 pages, which I don't think anybody wants somebody dumping a tree on their lap. So uh, the days of War and Peace are kind of over. The 1,000-page books or whatever.
Thanks, guys, for coming on today.
I enjoyed it.
Bye
Always
bye.
fun.
If you drop down to the show notes, You will find a link to Vaughn's book and to his Facebook group where he talks about his next book, which sounds really exciting. I love horror. So I hope he keeps all the ghosts in there. Somebody told him to take them out. I can't remember who. Um, but don't do it. They sound great. And join his Facebook group and you'll find out more about that book. Also, if you would like to comment or give me a book recommendation, you will find a link in the show notes that says comment here, and it takes you over to the YouTube page, and you know what to do once you get there. Oh, I'm also on Instagram. It's been a while since I've done this. I am back again next week. Hopefully, everything goes smoothly as I go week to week in my new place. And we're doing a writing prompt show and 3 excellent stories for you. We wrote in the fantasy genre. I really had a good time with this one, and I know you will love the stories. So I'll see you then next week. And until then, go read a good book.